Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head. I'm Jason L. Jones with UATV. The Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine has initiated severe punishment for fake bombs threats to the buildings, hospitals, and other public critical facilities. The relevant draft law was approved on December 18th. The number of deliberately false reports of the threats to citizens safely has recently reached alarming proportions. That's why the bill proposes severe punishments for this type of crime. To discuss this draft law, we're joined in the studio by Eugene Krapyvin, expert on law enforcement reform at the Reanimation Package of Reforms. Hello, and thank you, Eugene, for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, what do you think about this law, this draft law? You think it's a good idea, and are there other countries that you've seen their model of where this works?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're talking about the draft law. It was prepared by the government, so it was initiative of Ministry of Internal Affairs, and it is needs from the practice. And the second step, it will be registered in Parliament, and then the process of voting will start. So now it's just the amendments, the proposed amendments to the Criminal Code of Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a real problem for Ukraine because the number of false reporting of fake bombs are increasing. And to compare, in previous year, it was the same amount as just for half of this year. For the 5 months of 2019, it was more than 600 telephone calls, reports about false bombing. So the number is increasing, and Ukrainian government, they spent a lot of resources, a lot of money to react to these reports, because when you have the false report, you need to use the police forces, the medical forces, the service of prevention of explosion, and so on. It's a lot of money and a lot of resources that we are using for. So and as a consequence of that, the punishment for these crimes is very light. It's not severe. So people who are just want to joking, or just have some mental problem, or just want to pay attention for them, or just threat the society, yeah, they trying to report about the fake bombs, and they understand that it's not inevitable crime for them, because police cannot react. And again, crime now, the criminal responsibility is just imprisonment for the term from 2 to 6 years. And in Ukraine, it means that such small imprisonment, 2 or 3 years, it could be a not real verdict. So court can pronounce the verdict for example, 2 years, and it could be not real, like probation or something like that, and person commits this crime again. And what the government propose, they propose to increase the term of imprisonment, not from 2 to 6 years, but from 4 to 8 years. And what is the most important thing, that they propose to the confiscation of property. So this confiscation could be all the property of the person who committed a crime, or just some part of this property, like a car or apartment, or so on. So as we see in other countries, when this punishment for the false reporting of fake bombs is severe, more severe, that they have this real instrument, not just imprisonment, but the confiscation of property, because the confiscation cannot touch. The confiscation can touch the members of family, the relatives, and the wives or husbands, and it can be more preventive measure for the person to not commit this crime again.
Okay. And I know you were saying, so 600 calls Like how many?
600 is just for 5 months of this year.
Okay.
And it's just opened criminal cases.
Oh,
so
wow.
it could be just one person committed about 3 or 5 times of five false reporting, and it will be account as a one crime. So it's much more number of telephone calls than the 600.
Wow. Okay. And so, but I know that I've been told that it's a difficulty tracking these people down and identifying them. So how do they propose to resolve that issue? If it's
So it's really 2 problems. First, we just discussed it. It's about the severity of crime, and the second is about pre-trial investigation of these cases. So really, not more than 10 or 20 cases will go to the court because it's very hard to investigate this crime. So in Ukraine, these people, they're using like pay phones on the streets. Or just one-day SIM card. So we can buy in any supermarket one SIM card without any registration, without any identification, use just once to fake report, and it costs just $1, no more. And then police cannot identify who called because they cannot defines the location of this device because it just uses it for one time, or even when person commits this crime by his own phone, then to provide some access to the traffic of the GSM operator, you need a court decision. So this process, when investigator should go to court, obtain this decision of a court, then research the traffic, and just then can define the location of this device. But again, everyone watches films or knows that to use your own cell phone is a bad idea. So they're using this one-day SIM cards or pay phones on the streets, and it's really just a case when you can use like cameras, CCTV cameras on the street, and maybe you'll be lucky as an investigator when these cameras they catch this person. But again, it could work for the pay phones on the streets, but it cannot work for this one-day SIM cards.
Understood. So, and I know you said so. High amount of the threats have come by a phone call, but do they get them in any other motive, like by email or letter mail?
Yeah. Of course, also it could be emails, but in Ukraine we are not on such step of digitalization. Usually, law enforcement they need a phone call or written some document with appeal, but not with email. Usually, emails they are not even account. So when someone reports of a crime in Facebook or just by email, usually the case is not open in Ukraine. But then when a person sees that police does not react, they usually try to pay attention by phone or report by going to police station and so on. So about the false reporting of fake bombs, it's not a problem because emails they are not taken in account by police. Okay,
and by so you said it was going to be like maybe like an 8-year to 16-year penalty or something like that?
From the term of imprisonment is from 4 years to 8 years.
40 years to 8 years. So do you think that's fair, or do you think it should be stricter or less, or what do you think?
Yeah, it's strict enough. And with this additional punishment of confiscation, it's really severe punishment. But again, the next question is the inevitability of the punishment, because we do not change anything in the pre-trial investigation stage. So we will have the same problem, maybe less cases, less numbers, because people will afraid of this severe punishment, or the real punishment will go to some of them. But this governmental initiative cannot solve the problem at all. But again, as I see, for some part, maybe 30%, it can decrease the level of this false reports.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you, Eugene, for all your insights. I wish we could ask you a little bit more about this, but hopefully we can have you back when there's more updates and as this passes, and see what this what happens out of this. Okay, thank you. That was Eugene Krapyvin, expert on law enforcement reform. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next head-to-head and much, much more on UATV.